The pen trembled in her hand as tears blurred the paper, but she forced herself to keep writing, hiding a truth that could change everything. She kept her head down, afraid that if she looked up, her eyes would reveal the secret she had been carrying silently for months. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what time is it and where are you watching from? Let's start. Across the desk, the billionaire boss watched quietly, his sharp eyes studying her, unaware that this moment would haunt him years later. She signed the dismissal letter, each stroke of ink feeling heavier than the last, as if she was signing away more than just her job. Her heart pounded not for the job she was losing, but for the fragile life growing inside her, a secret she chose to protect alone. The room felt cold, despite the luxury around her, golden frames and polished marble, doing nothing to ease the storm inside her chest. He leaned back in his chair, calm and distant, believing this was just another routine decision, another employee leaving without consequence. But for her, this was the end of stability, the end of safety, and the beginning of a journey she had never planned for. She wiped her tears quickly, trying to appear strong, knowing she could not afford to look weak in front of someone so powerful. Without saying a word about her condition, she stood up slowly, holding herself together with a strength born from silent desperation. As she turned to leave, neither of them knew that this quiet goodbye would one day return with a truth neither could escape. She stepped out of the office, her vision blurred, but she kept walking, refusing to break down where anyone could see her pain. The hallway felt longer than ever, each step echoing her loneliness as the weight of her secret pressed heavily against her chest. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach, a quiet promise forming that no matter what happens, she would protect this child. Behind her, the office door closed softly, marking the end of her old life and the beginning of a struggle she never imagined. Outside the building, the cold air hit her face, but it did nothing to numb the fear slowly taking over her thoughts. She had no plan, no savings, and no one to turn to, only a fragile hope that she could somehow survive what was coming. Meanwhile, inside, the billionaire returned to his work, already moving on, unaware of the life-changing truth he had just ignored. To him, she was just another employee, but to fate, she was the center of a story that would soon shake his entire world. Days turned into nights, and she searched endlessly for work, hiding her pregnancy beneath loose clothes and forced smiles. Every rejection felt sharper than the last, but she refused to give up, because giving up was no longer an option for her. Hunger, exhaustion, and fear became her daily companions, yet she kept moving forward with a strength she never knew she had. And deep inside she carried not just a child, but a future that would one day return to rewrite everything he believed. Weeks passed, and her body grew weaker, but her determination grew stronger, fueled by the life she carried and refused to give up on. She found a small cleaning job, hiding her condition behind quiet obedience, working longer hours just to keep a roof over her head. Every morning she woke before sunrise, whispering to her unborn child, promising a future she was still struggling to build. Her hands ached from labor, her feet swollen, yet she never complained, because survival had become her only focus now. Sometimes she would pause, holding her stomach gently, reminding herself that she was no longer alone in this difficult world. The world around her moved on, uncaring and fast, while she fought silently, step by step, building a life from nothing. Meanwhile, far away in his towering office, the billionaire expanded his empire, unaware of the storm quietly growing behind him. Success followed him everywhere, but something inside him remained empty, a silence he could not explain or understand. Back in her small rented room, nights were the hardest, as fear and doubt crept in when everything else fell quiet. She would sit by the window, tears falling softly, wondering if she made the right choice by walking away without speaking. But then a gentle movement inside her would remind her why she stayed silent, why she chose sacrifice over confrontation. And in that quiet moment, she knew her story was not ending here. It was only preparing for something much bigger. Months passed, and the day finally came when pain gripped her body, stronger than anything she had ever felt before in her life. Alone in her small room, she struggled through labor, with no family beside her, only courage and desperation guiding her forward. Tears mixed with sweat as she held on, whispering prayers, begging for strength to bring her child safely into this world. Hours later, a fragile cry filled the room, and in that moment, all her pain turned into a love deeper than fear itself. She held her baby close, her hands trembling, realizing that despite everything she lost, she had gained a reason to live. Days turned into years, and she worked tirelessly, taking multiple jobs, raising her child with discipline, love, and quiet sacrifice. She never spoke about the past, never mentioned the man who unknowingly changed her life with a single cold decision. Her child grew strong and kind, unaware of the struggles his mother faced just to give him a simple, stable life. Meanwhile, the billionaire's life was filled with luxury, power, and success, yet a strange emptiness followed him everywhere. He built everything money could buy, but something inside him remained missing, something he could never clearly define. Sometimes he would pause and think of that day, that employee, that silent goodbye that stayed somewhere in his memory. But he always pushed the thought away, unaware that the truth was not gone. It was only waiting for the right time. 6 years passed, and the boy now walked beside her, holding her hand tightly, his small steps filled with trust and innocence. She had built a simple life, not perfect, but stable enough to give him food, education, and the love she once feared losing. Every sacrifice she made had shaped him into a kind child, respectful, gentle, and far wiser than his age would suggest. She still worked long hours, her hands rough from years of labor, but her eyes carried a quiet strength no one could ignore. One morning, fate shifted quietly as she received a cleaning job request at a high-rise building she had never visited before. The address felt familiar, but she ignored the feeling, focusing only on the opportunity to earn more for her growing child. As she entered the grand building, memories began to stir, though she tried to suppress them, unwilling to reopen old wounds. The polished floors, golden decor, and silent luxury felt exactly like a place she once left behind with tears in her eyes. Her heart started beating faster, but she kept walking, unaware that destiny was slowly bringing her back to that same man. Meanwhile, inside the top office, the billionaire prepared for another day, unaware that his past was about to walk in. The boy looked around in wonder, holding her hand, completely unaware that this place held secrets connected to his life. And as the elevator doors began to close, fate sealed a moment that would change all their lives forever. The elevator doors opened, and her steps slowed as memories flooded back, each corner reminding her of the day she left in silence. She tried to stay focused on her work, but her hands trembled slightly, sensing that something unexpected was about to happen. The boy walked beside her, curious and innocent, his eyes exploring the place that unknowingly held part of his identity. As they reached the office floor, her heart skipped a beat, recognizing the same corridor she once walked with tears in her eyes. Before she could turn away, the office door opened, and the billionaire stepped out, his presence as powerful as ever. Their eyes met for the first time in years, and in that moment time seemed to freeze between past and present. He looked at her, confused at first, then slowly recognition appeared, though he couldn't yet understand why she felt familiar. She lowered her gaze instantly, fear and old pain rising again, unsure if she should stay or walk away once more. But then his eyes shifted to the boy beside her, and something inside him stirred, something deep and unsettling. The child's face, his eyes, even his quiet expressions felt strangely familiar, triggering a feeling he could not explain. He stepped closer, his mind racing, while she instinctively moved the boy slightly behind her, trying to protect him. And in that tense silence, a truth long buried began to rise, threatening to break everything he thought he knew. He stared at the child longer than he should have, a strange pull in his chest growing stronger with every passing second. The boy looked back innocently, unaware of the storm forming, his small hand gripping his mother's dress a little tighter. She sensed the tension immediately, her heart racing as fear returned, the same fear she felt the day she walked away. He tried to speak, but words failed him, replaced by a heavy silence filled with questions he didn't yet understand. Something about the child felt too familiar, too close, as if a missing piece of his life was suddenly standing before him. She lowered her eyes, hoping to end the moment quickly, knowing that truth could destroy the fragile life she built. But he stepped forward again, unable to ignore the feeling, his voice finally breaking the silence with quiet intensity. "Who is he?" he asked, his tone calm but heavy, carrying a weight that made her chest tighten instantly. Her mind raced for an answer, but her silence spoke louder, revealing a truth she had hidden for 6 long years. The boy looked between them, confused, sensing something serious, though too young to understand what was unfolding. Her hands trembled slightly as she held him closer, realizing that the past she buried was now standing right in front of her. And in that moment, the truth was no longer safe. It was ready to come out, whether she wanted it or not. She took a deep breath, her voice shaking as years of silence pressed against her chest, demanding to finally be released. Today. Tears filled her eyes as she looked up, no longer able to hide, knowing this moment would change everything forever. "He is your son," she said softly, the truth falling between them, heavier than anything either of them had ever faced. The billionaire froze completely, his world shaking as those words echoed, breaking through the walls he built over years. His eyes moved back to the child, seeing everything clearly now, the resemblance, the connection, the truth he once ignored. Guilt hit him like a storm, memories of that day returning, the letter, her tears, and the decision he never questioned. The boy stepped closer to his mother, sensing her pain, holding her hand tighter as if trying to protect her from the moment. He knelt slowly, his powerful image gone, replaced by a man facing the consequences of his past for the very first time. "I didn't know," he whispered, his voice breaking, but deep inside he knew he never cared enough to find out before. She closed her eyes briefly, not in anger, but in exhaustion, carrying years of struggle that no apology could erase. For the first time, he understood that success meant nothing if you failed the people who truly needed you the most. The story ends here, but the mystery lives on. Like, subscribe, and return for the next unforgettable journey.